Morning, everybody. Welcome to our MedCORE information session update. Today, we're just going to kind of cover off where we're at in the development of the MedCORE application. For those you have been, it's some it's been called Femoral 2.0, but we're officially making the migration to MedCORE. So today we'll be covering off, basically, here's our agenda. So we talk about the project framing and scope and the roadmap. So just a quick refresher on that. And then I will hand over to Marissa, who will provide some administrative updates. And then the dev team of Pavel and Assam will provide any development updates. And then Kendra will provide some user interface sneak peeks of what's to come in MedCORE, and then we'll have some closing remarks from the team. So without further ado, so just to recall, this is our current project scope. So it's been this consistent over the previous updates, which is taking our existing Femoral 1.0 application of resident preceptor, leave of absence, field notes, SUS and CARMS portals, and basically migrating them over to MedCORE in a new software development language, and then working on a couple additional modules, which does include talent management, FMRSP, research, and finance, and then improving, of course, the reporting suite that does go with MedCORE. And then future development will include some integrations, ideally with Elantra, the faculty side, and then the development of a scheduling application for the unit coordinators. So right now, as you can see, we're currently working on what we call the core, which is the learner profiles, the faculty profiles, the leave of absence, and the e-field notes. So those are kind of your key requisite modules that are needed in order for the department actually to run the residency program. And then within those core, you'll have some of the components of the simulated office orals, a full reporting suite for SPRs, and then the beginning of the interfaces between the other modules, etc. Then we'll be moving on to additional modules, and then scheduling, and then, of course, talent management, research, i.e. FMRSP, etc. So the project roadmap hasn't changed. Right now, we've officially started looking at putting code behind the actual user interface wireframes. So the team has been working on that. We've also been successfully passed what we call ARB Gate 1, or Architectural Review Board. The Gate 1 is basically presentation of the business architecture. And now on the 13th of December, we'll be going into the ARB Gate 2, which is actually presenting what they call the TAD, or the technical architecture diagram. So we will be continuing to work towards the 13th. The slide deck's already done. And once we pass that, should be relatively smooth sailing for development and coordination and collaboration with the different teams. Right now, we're striving towards the July 1st of 2023 deployment date, at least for core. However, as we get into more steady development, that date will be flexible. And as we get past both the TAD and into the hardcore development, we'll start to see what is delivered in in the initial first sprints, and that should give us a more sort of structured review of the timeline, the schedule. So that July 1st date is still fairly flexible. So basically, since our last project update, we have had some good successes. So we've actually come to good agreements with both MedTech and Central IT. They'll be providing some good oversight, some senior level individuals in both architecture, security, infrastructure, to guide the team along on how to successfully develop and then deploy MedCORE within the university's domain. So in prior meetings, we may have discussed a cloud-based architecture or potentially AWS. Now we're looking at an on-premise application where the university is providing, a fully loaded development environment where the team can develop, leveraging some of the expertise or knowledge of some of the med tech and central IT individuals to provide guidance. So this is a good thing. It should help minimize costs, but then also provide some good insight and facilitate any deployment down the road. So now I'm going to pass it over to Marissa for her administrative updates.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, just to expand a little bit on some of the things that Jeff hit on here. If you can go to the next slide if you want, please, Jeff. So we spent the last couple of months working with the Architectural Review Board, which we call ARB. It's this kind of advisory committee that makes sure that there's visibility across the university on all IT initiatives that are underway, just to make sure that there's proper alignment and integrations of solutions, so we're not kind of duplicating efforts across the university. It's really a formal kind of peer review group that we met with, and it's just a group of people that we communicate with on a regular basis, and so we had to present documents and presentations to them over the past couple months, and we will continue to again in just another week or so here. And that way we're making sure that we're following best practices and all that sort. So we've submitted a blueprint of sorts of our business architecture and the technical architecture going behind MedCORE. And those will be evergreen. So every time a new feature or tool is put into place in MedCORE, it just allows us to pause and think about how we're really doing this, laying the groundwork properly. And so those documents then live on forever and ever. So we successfully, as Jeff mentioned, in November, submitted the business architecture documents to that committee. About 60 people were on the line, and no questions at all about why we are undertaking MedCORE. And so I think that's a real testament to kind of the project team here that have been putting all that together. So that business architecture was really, a recap on what the problem is with Femoral, what our proposed solution will have in terms of the capabilities and structure. And then on the next slide, you'll see the technical architecture document that we are now presenting on December 13th, where we get into the specifics about the design principles, the hosting agreements, security, costs, other kind of integrations, and specific user types that MedCORE will speak to. And again, that will be presented to those 60 people. And I'm sure we'll be just as successful as our first batch of presentations. So wish us luck on that. And we'll provide updates again in March on those outcomes. But that doesn't slow us down from the work that's underway already. If we could go to the next slide, you'll see that we have been recruiting, I'm sure you're aware, since at least August. I looked back in my records for a senior software developer, just to kind of address maybe some of the gaps we currently have, kind of bring that overarching technical oversight that is needed on not just MedCORE, but on our innovation projects as well. We do have 2 candidates coming in this week for an in-person second round interview. So that's at least a promising update. And so we will continue just to plug away at that as we can. As we've said here before, sometimes recruitment can be quite difficult given the competitive nature of the market, but we won't let that slow us down either. So I believe that's it from me. I'll now hand it over to Osama and Pavel, who have been busy working away in their first 3 months here. So go ahead. Thanks.
Hi guys, so yeah, I'll be talking about the development updates. The first one is, as Jeff has mentioned previously, we've switched the hosting from cloud-based solutions, AWS, to on-premise solutions. So now all the data is going to be stored within Ottawa servers, which will make it a little more secure. Next, we changed our repository from GitHub to GitLab. And again, that's to better align with the university resources. So we have consulted MedTech, and they have suggested that that will be a better solution for us. And lastly, working with MedTech, So basically, we've been collaborating with MedTech more closely on certain aspects of our software development lifecycle, as well as certain key development decisions.
Perfect. So I'll be taking and explaining what are the other 3 points for regarding the development of updates. So basically, based on the requirement that we've gathered from our clients, we managed to set up the schema of our database tables and identify all the relationships between those tables. So basically, the server of the database now is up and running, and that's the place where all the information will be stored. The other update that we've established a connection between the front-end part and the back-end part of our app. So basically, all the information that our end users would be interacting through the UI will be processed and stored in our backend. And for the last point, basically now Badal and myself, we are full boarded on the team, and we know where we are going. And that's it for the development updates.
Thanks, guys. And I think just to clarify one thing is in our previous updates, we have mentioned, our application being cloud-based, and, we are still striving and developing towards the MedCORE application being cloud-enabled. The main driver for us to go on-prem at the current moment is that the university is actually not structured currently to support any cloud-based application. They're at least a couple years away from even coming out with a plan in support of cloud-based applications, in support of the Chancellor's Transformation 2030 plan. So in order to avoid a little bit of pushback and resistance to MedCORE being the first of its kind and being kind of the guinea pig towards that, we're working towards having it cloud enabled. So it's very easy to move to the cloud once the university has adopted a cloud-based infrastructure. So now we'll move over to Kendra and the user interface.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jeff. So I'm going to be taking over control from Jeff and doing a little walkthrough of the wireframes that we have right now. Give me 1 second. I never had this kind of power before. Okay. So this is the user. So the user interface is basically the front end. So that is what the end users of MedCORE, not Femoral, sorry, will see when actually using the application. So I want to give you a little walkthrough of what we have so far. So last time we presented the general information section. So this is the information that we'll store on all users. And in the past few months, we've moved on to the program information, which is the information that we'll store on learners specifically. And you can see we've reorganized here from what we had in Femoral to present the most based on what we heard from end users, the folks currently using Femoral, the information that they need to see first and foremost when they log in on a specific learner. So you can see here we've reorganized the program information section and made it collapsible. I think that was also something that we heard. And we're just working on some of the features now. You can check what we have. Oop, I think I need to go in this order. Sorry. You can see some drop downs, and we've started to input information in each section. Yeah, and gives you a bit of an idea of what it will look like. Oh, it's because I'm not in edit. Okay. Yes, you can see some of the functionality we have, of course, the dates and everything like that. And moving towards one new feature that we'll have is the previous activity tab, I guess here, sorry, I don't know what to call it, where you can see a log of all the changes that have been made to the learner's record. So kind of helping to address the gap that currently exists in Femoral, where things are confined to either updates in PGY1 or updates in PGY2 with no gray space in the middle. So just working on some of the feedback that we heard from there to, yeah, to implement for MedCORE. And you can see, yeah, we've got the preceptor list and everything mirroring the features that are there now. Yeah, and collapses back, takes us back to the homepage, and everything is nice and condensed. Okay, back to you, Jeff. Maybe I'll stop share. I think that's what I have to do. Great. Okay, and then you can head to the next slide, Jeff. Okay, so to wrap up for today and to get into next steps of what everyone can expect in the next quarter, as both Jeff and Marissa mentioned, we have our ARB approval, so Architecture Review Board approval, and our TAD, Technical Architecture Document Presentation, in 8 days. So that's where we'll go before that committee and present our technical design for how MedCORE will be laid out. So that will be a big step for us, but as Marissa mentioned, also will be a living document, so we'll continue to add to it. In the new year, we'll be looking at scheduling some focused working groups, so some smaller, more narrow focused working groups to continue gathering requirements on some of the features that exist in femoral and looking how we'll translate those over to MedCORE. So stay tuned for that. And then our next info session, so we'll be looking, if our math is correct, 4 months from now, will be in March. 3 months, sorry, will be in March 2023. So that will be our next big update. And you can, yep, great. Yeah, and that's everything for now. If anyone has any questions, I think everyone that's on the line here knows how to reach us and where to get a hold of us. Yeah. Any closing remarks from anybody?
From my end, but I don't know if there's any questions that anyone had now. We can also address those as a group if you'd like. But
I have a question.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, great work. Amazing how things are advancing, and to see that the university seems to be letting us into each one of their gates. So thank you so much for all the hard work. I guess what I'm wondering is, because now we're starting to have a look and feel of things, I'm just wondering how we can kind of work together with the end users, because everyone has their own, like, I go in it for a purpose. Kimball Game might go in it for a purpose. A unit coordinator goes in it for a purpose. I'm just wondering, as we're seeing things starting to mend, if there might be some in-between consultation in how that user, you never want that, oh, here's the product, and then all of a sudden the users are like I'm thinking of UO Campus. I guess I'm just thinking how, oh, here, you're stuck working with this, right? And how do we ensure that everyone who is using it can have, a little bit some feedback because they're the users.
Yep. So that will definitely happen. I think we're just at this stage now where we've got to set up that kind of test environment too. Like Kendra right now is able to show you through these kind of trial wireframes, but the dev team will have to actually work on building a space where we can then open it up to everyone to see, is the collapsible thing really working for you? If it's not, then let's adjust that.
Okay.
So there's definitely going to be that kind of iterative feedback session coming very soon. It's just a matter of getting that in place now.
No, that's great. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yes, Chandra.
Hello, hopefully you can hear
Hi.
me okay
Yes.
through my mask. I noticed that you had the option for pronouns, which I think is really great and inclusive. I'm just wondering, what are the options? I would assume his, him, her, she.
Yeah. This has been an ongoing debate because we don't want it to be where you can just type in just to prevent errors and typos and that kind of duplicative information. But we did want to make sure that there is enough of choices to meet people's needs. So that is definitely on our radar of something where we want that to be specific feedback we get from people. Have we captured the right ones? Have we overlooked any? Kendra, I don't know, do you have top of mind what the current choices are?
And maybe for context, the reason I'm asking, I know at the unit level with the EMR that we have, and each site has their own EMR. I know we've discussed this, and because when we get the information, are they male, female? Sometimes that's helpful for patients to know if they're requesting female only. So the only way that our EMR will let us put the information in is male, female. So I'm just thinking, if someone chooses non-binary, they, them, we as a unit would need to ask them in a probably very delicate conversation, just so that we can put it in our EMR yeah, so just it may turn into sort of it may accidentally spiral a conversation. So just so we can sort of be ready and sort of know if people are choosing to do that, that it doesn't trickle down to everything, unfortunately, that can accommodate that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we did discuss that as well too. Like there'd have to kind of be that difference between what is maybe legal, like your legal name versus what you prefer to be called. And I think the same would have to then be considered for gender identity as well. Like you've mentioned, for your purposes, it has to be kind of either or, but yeah, it's definitely something we'll have to consider and at least be able to communicate in a way with those learners that, again, this is just in a very specific context, doesn't
Yeah, we just wouldn't want to set anyone up and sort of then sort of be frustrated sort of with what comes later.
Right.
And yeah, if whatever they identify as, you know, or what
Right.
have you, we will support that. We just sort of only have so many options, unfortunately, based on
Right.
the restrictions that we have.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks for bringing that up, Chandra. Yeah, that's definitely something that we wouldn't have been aware of. So thanks.
Yeah, and I think we're open to any suggestions. If there's once you get a chance to play with the prototype, if there's pronouns that you see that aren't there, like, you know, we're all ears. So just let us know.
Yeah, that might be something. I don't. Again, we can discuss this kind of in our little working groups and stuff. But it's definitely something. I wonder if there's a need for an about MedCORE type page where people kind of understand that this is a very central administrative tool and that it wouldn't necessarily connect to units and EMRs and stuff. That might help prevent some kind, especially in our communications as it starts to really get rolled out, to let people know that as much as we've tried to integrate with other tools, that it's not a fail-proof solution. So thanks. Any other questions, comments at this point? I do think, as Kendra was saying, in the new year, we're going to start really scheduling, like, I think leave of absence, e-field notes will be on our radar next, just so we can start getting some of those wireframes things developed while the dev team continues to fine tune what you saw here today. But that's our update for now. But I'm sure come December 13th, we will have more positive news to share with you. So. Okay.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll let everybody get back to their day.
Yep.
And thank you, everybody, for attending. And any questions you may have, as Kendra mentioned, please feel free to reach out to us. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.